Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today, for the fifth time, I'm joined by Ewan Martin. Now, remind me, Ewan, have we ever been beaten since you've been in this studio?
No,
100%.
This is my fourth live game and 4 wins. So
Four wins and
I'm happy
four.
with that. But I tell you what, that was a nervy second half. That was awful.
It was very nervy.
Let's be honest, it was terrible football.
We'll strip it. We'll strip the bones off it, right? We'll strip the meat off the bones even. First thing I'm going to say, right, is Callum McGregor's my man of the match because I think he done a lot right in that game. But that decision he made near the end of the game to take a red with 2 minutes to go was brave, but it was absolutely essential that he did that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was essential, Ewan. And I think that as the captain, right, taking one for the team, that's the epitome of that. 2 minutes to go, taking a red. Yeah, I know he's going to miss a game, he's going to be suspended, but he had to do it. So let's talk about that first, because on the 88th minute, we almost threw it away.
Oh.
Jens to Hatate, loose ball, McGregor left with absolutely no option. What's your thoughts?
Well, especially that second half, the story of loose balls giving the ball away, allowing Motherwell to come at us. But that chance with McGregor, he'd no option, and he had to do it. The only positive spin I can put on it, at least now McGregor will get a 1 game rest.
But the only time he's going to get a rest.
Exactly, yeah. But honestly, yeah, we had chances to score more than the two. But let's get real. That was a terrible second half. It really was.
It was a terrible second half, and I think Joe comes in. Yeah, you're right, Joe. 3 points in the bag, and we will get to a stage of the season where you would scrape a three points and be happy with it. I just think that following on from that poor performance against St Mirren, that's 2 bad performances back to back there, and we will have to look at some of the potential reasons for it. I mean, Carter Vickers we spoke about, but there's other areas of that park that have to be better. David Boyle, we may have won, but that was an absolute shocker, says David. Turnbull was a bomb scare coming on, and we got to start questioning why Abada has been snubbed for Maeda, who has shown nothing. Let's break that down then. I don't disagree it was a shocker. I don't want to pinpoint individuals, but when things aren't going right, you start to look at the reasons why. And by the way, I don't think Turnbull's anywhere near the reason that we didn't perform better today. I think the defence is a big issue, and I think also the midfield that we've been lauding for weeks and weeks, that trio in the midfield weren't at it today, Ewan.
Yeah, well, we said before the subs were made that the 2 players that we said together would change was O'Reilly and Hatate. Maeda, because they were giving nothing to the team. But the biggest problem today, from start right through that second half, was the 2 guys in the middle of the park at the back. They were just, their distribution with the ball was really poor. They were getting skinned. I mean, again, we're going about Welsh's physical presence. He was getting bullied. He was easily getting pushed off the ball. And I think when at the back, when you lose that composure, that control, it affects the whole team. What I mean? I think today, the players, you said Carl McGregor man of the match. I think apart from that, I think Juranovic, especially the second half, I thought he was the one guy who was getting a right good go.
Yeah,
I thought he was. Considering how badly we played, he was maybe pass marks with McGregor. There was a few passengers out there today, and horrible second half. But we won. We're back top of the league, where we belong, and we hopefully will stay. As you said, Paul, before during the second half, you learn a lot in games like this about certain players, and I think today we've learned a bit about a few players who. Are they up for the challenge, or are they good enough for when games are tight or games are scrappy? Yeah, but aye.
Yeah, I think you're right. And what we'll do, right, is we take the 3 points and you let Ange figure out what's wrong. But we will look at things that we've maybe highlighted in that 90 minutes there. The St Mirren game was horrible. And Stephen Sloan comes in to say that that was an ugly win. Woeful pass, and Kyogo should have had 3. I'll come back to that actually, because we've been talking about the clinical nature of having to be clinical in the Champions League and how we haven't been clinical, but that's now crept into the domestic games, unfortunately. Hart not convincing, we'll come back to him as well, Stephen. Jensen Welsh not good enough. Don't think anyone gets a pass mark. Right, let's start at the back then, right? You've mentioned Joe Hart. There was a few issues with Joe Hart, right? The goal. We'll start off with the goal, right? I agree with you. I think Juranovic never hid today. He was always showing for the ball. He gave us an outlet down the right that Greg Taylor didn't give us down the left.
Could have had a hat-trick.
He could have had that. Yeah. 2 very good chances, and he struck one off the bar as well. So he certainly could have had a hat-trick. So I'm loath to actually blame him. And for the goal, I mean, Joe Hart will have gone on for as long as he's been here about the difference he's made to Celtic. And this isn't knee-jerk. I'm looking at his performance today.
I think today could have been his worst in a Celtic jersey. I thought he was atrocious. That's his second half as well.
There's a couple of moments that there was a bizarre situation.
The one when he falls down and
right.
Thankfully Motherwell couldn't hit the ball into an empty net, because I mean he makes he just mucks up the coming out to catch it. He drops it, and then he kind of hits his head a wee bit off the guy's body, and then he just kind of lies on the ground pretending he's not out cold. But I think he was just playing the ref a wee bit to try and get the game stopped.
There's 2 issues with this. Yeah. There's 2 issues. The first one is Joe Hart completely fluffed at that ball, right? And had he not done that, there isn't a situation. What leads on from that, though, creates a couple of issues. And the first one is, we don't know the extent of that contact with the guy's elbow. The guy's rubbing his head, right? It's not deliberate, but there's a collision. And Joe Hart hits the deck and he's poleaxed. He's out. It looks as though it's serious. And if it is serious, and it looks as though it is, because he's motionless, Beaton's got to stop. He's got to stop the game. It's a knock to the head, regardless of how serious it turns out to be. He's got to stop the game, but he allows Motherwell to play on, and they fluff their lines. So then you start thinking, well, how serious was that? Because he's fluffed his lines there, has Joe Hart, and he stayed down. Hopefully he's all right. He seemed okay, and he finished the game, but he's not been convincing today, Ewan, and it started filtering into the comments. People are questioning it.
Yeah, again, I go back to I think the fact that the 2 guys in front of him the last 2 games have been awful. I mean, you've got 2 guys who are all over the place. You lose confidence. The whole team loses confidence, and it's huge. I mean, in that second half, every mistake, everything broke down was when we had the ball coming out from the back. How many times did we hit the ball out wide or give it away to an opposing player, or our possession was wrong, where we're leaving gaps? I just thought they were the 2 guys at the back. I mean, I'd give them both 3 out of 10 today. I thought they were both terrible.
And they get a lot of the ball. This is the thing, particularly Welsh. Yeah. He's on the ball a hell of a lot. I've praised his distribution time and time again, and the range of passing and things like that. But see today, and this might seem a bit basic, I actually think that the physicality didn't suit him. There was a situation where he was put under pressure by Lewis Moult, and I was surprised at the decision the ref gave, because I almost thought to myself, to Stephen Welsh, don't give John Beaton a decision to make, because it won't go Celtic's way, and it did, and I was delighted that it did, because we were exposed at the back at that moment. Yeah. And it comes down to the physicality, Ewan. And for me, you can't be a player in this type of environment in Scottish football without having that aggression. And I don't know if I can see it in Stephen Welsh yet.
No.
And that's a concern for me. Now, when he's playing alongside Carter Vickers, I think Carter Vickers can pull people's performance levels up a fair bit. And you don't see it as much. But when he's more exposed in a defence alongside Jens, then I start to worry. And I'm looking ahead now to Wednesday night's game. And I just hope, I don't know what the latest update has been from Ange Postecoglou, but I hope that Carter Vickers was back for that game, because I'm not confident with that pairing.
No, I mean, it would scare the hell out of me if them 2 start on Wednesday, honestly. I mean, the chances Motherwell had today, they could have scored a good few more. A team, I know Leisberg aren't playing great, but my God, they're a much higher quality team than Motherwell, and playing in their backyard. the thought of Welsh and Jens together, that's not a nice thought.
It does concern me. My view on Welsh isn't one that's born out of thinking that every player you need to sign or play has to be a marquee signing, a big name. It's nothing to do with the fact he's come through the ranks and he's maybe this unfashionable player. I do like him. I don't see a partnership there with Jens that fills me with confidence for Leipzig on Wednesday night. Like you say, we are stepping it up to a completely different level. And I hope that Carter Vickers is back for that. I also don't want this to turn into one of those post-matches where it's all negative. So we have won the game. We will be looking at the absolute genius that is Hatate. But I'm going to bring in this point from Boheed Bob. Ange flogging clearly knackered players when he has subs to play has to take part of the blame of the Hatate Callum debacle. Been saying for years we need to find a way to rest them, but come on. Well, the thing for me with that is, we do have a lot of players in our squad who travel and play international football when others are able to get a break. And we all know how much football Callum McGregor has played. I think that situation there wasn't down certainly to Callum McGregor needing a rest. I think Callum McGregor was switched on. The ball that was played to him was poor by Hatate, and he's made a decision knowing that Beaton couldn't get that red card out fast enough. It's always going to be a sending off. So I'm then looking at Hatate and thinking, well, does he really need a rest? I mean, I know he spoke about fatigue at the end of last season, Ewan, but at that stage of the game, that's just a slack pass, and he shouldn't be giving a ball away. I'll need to look back at the ball that he took from Jens. Was it a poor ball that he took from Jens? I know there was someone right behind him, and he's probably,
Is this the one
panicked?
when Hatate plays it to McGregor, but it's for the red card, you mean?
Yeah.
I can't really remember.
The ball definitely comes in from Jens, and I'm just wondering, is it one of these suicide passes where...
It's a good chance. I just remember, perhaps Hatate was under pressure as well when he got the ball, and he thought, I have to play it back. And again, it was another poor ball. Actually, when he played the ball to and McGregor had to take the guy down, if you watch Joe Hart, what's he doing? He's a mile out in no man's land. Mm-hmm. So thank God McGregor did take him out, because if he hadn't, the Motherwell player would have had an open goal just to tap the ball into. Because I say Joe Hart was, I don't know what he was doing again there.
No, you're right. Brown Warrior comes in to talk about a Celtic under Ange without McGregor and how that is going to be working out as well. It certainly will be interesting. There's also a lot of people talking about the performance of Joe Hart. We've spoken about it. The concern that today more than anything raises about Hart. We spoke about, is he commanding enough when St Mirren beat us 2-0 in Paisley? Was he commanding enough? And then others are maybe saying, well, let's not have a knee-jerk reaction here. The guy's been great for over a year. Absolutely. But there is often cycles of form and consistency. And if your goalkeeper isn't playing that well, and that's creeping into a defence that is a wee bit fractured by the fact that they've never really played together, then you're given the dilemma, Ewan. Do you make a change? I mean, that would be a bold move on Wednesday night.
I don't think Ange will. I think, no, I can't see.
You let him play it out and get over it within the games.
I just go back to the fact that I think it's a simple scenario of, I think Joe Hart likes to have a commanding defender who he can trust and understand, which he has with Carter Vickers. Take that away, all of a sudden Joe Hart looks a bit lost. He looks a bit uncomfortable. He doesn't know to come or to go or whatever, because he's obviously not communicating with either Welsh or Gents. So can't highlight enough how big an issue is losing a guy like Carter Vickers. And sadly, again, it shows Jens and Welsh, are they good enough?
Well, what I would say is we need to make a decision on both of them, because you've got Jens coming on a loan basis with an option to buy at the end of the season. So he's basically he's on probation from now until the end of the season. And then you've got Welsh, and it's quite curious that we've been in a situation twice with Welsh over two different transfer windows where there's been an opportunity for him to move on, and we've kept him. And that shows that there must be some kind of level of belief in the player by the gaffer. Or was Ange Postecoglou not in a good position to let another defender go?
I think it's maybe the fact that we're kind of tight at the back. couldn't really let someone go. I mean, because we knew Julian was for the off, so we really couldn't afford to lose two at one time. We also didn't have someone to come in to fill that gap.
Yeah,
but I think it's definitely shown today in the game, especially against St Mirren, that these two guys at the back are not good enough by a mile, and it destroys the whole Ange ball system. You know, because the big part of the way we play is from the back. We play from the back, coming forward. If your two back guys who've got a lot of the ball can't do that, then the whole team won't work. The system doesn't work. So yeah. That's the big worry, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Cameron Carter-Vickers is back for Wednesday, because if not, I fear the worst for that one.
You do, you get concerned if he's not on the team. Daniel Rowe, welcome back. Good and bad there from Hatate. Beautiful strike, but he totally put Kalmak in a bad position to get the red card with that pass at the end. Still 3 points, which I'll take any way we can get. I think, looking at the comments, that most people are blaming Hatate for that. And yeah, you might say it's not about blame, it's a collective responsibility, but you try and look at ways that you can tweak that team. And as Ewan said earlier on, when you come away with a win and you've not played that well, you can learn a thing or two about players. The one thing that I'm taking from Welsh's performance is the fact that the physicality didn't seem to suit him. He needs to become more aggressive. He needs to attack far more cross balls, lead him with his head, not with his arm, because he seems to do that and he's off balance. He's never going to win the ball. But I also saw in Greg Taylor today a couple of occasions where he was basically bullied off the ball, and that's something that, you know, Taylor has gone through this season without any criticism whatsoever on Acsom, certainly. But today I don't think he was at his best either, Ewan.
No, he's a small wee guy, isn't he? He's not got that physicality. I mean, Juranovic isn't big, but he's powerful. He's got pace and power, and that's one thing Greg Taylor lacks. I mean, Greg Taylor's got heart, commitment. He gives that 100% every week. But I think games where it's tight and it's a bit of a battle, you know, that's when he can kind of like, when Celtic's flown, you know, the team's playing well, everyone's doing their job right. Yeah, everyone looks good. But when you get games like today, St Mirren, when it's awkward, it's difficult, you know, you've got to really show up. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying Greg Taylor was like one of the bad players today. I think the team in general were poor today again, which is a bit of a concern.
I'm going to bring this up because there's a lot of people talking about the fact that here we go. Here's one of them. It's a 6-0 turning into a 2-1. Are we only talking about these issues because we're not being clinical enough in front of goal? There were a number of chances in front of goal that, you know, earlier on this season, and you know, I know we're only just into October, but earlier on we were kind of free scoring, and we're not now, and it seems to have dried up a bit. And there was loads of chances on a plate.
There's tons. I mean, there's at least 5-6. You think they should be goals, you know? So it could have been a 6. If we'd scored go back to the first half. If we'd scored, you know, those two chances, let's say, well, Juranovic's shot that hits the bar and McGregor's miss. We score them, we're 3-0 up.
Yep.
It's a different game. We're cruising. We would win by 6 or 7. You know, in a certain kind of funny way. A game like today, the fact that we won it can be a good thing because it shows you where we're still vulnerable and what has to be improved upon.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Because if we keep winning by a big margin and there's no pressure on the team, you're not going to learn too much.
Your deficiencies are masked.
We learned a lot.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I mean, there was a moment of skill by Kyogo, who obviously opened the scoring. It was a well-worked goal, and he got the final touch, obviously. But there was a bit of skill in the box where he's managed to get that ball over, and then there was a penalty shout. But looking back, that was not a penalty. Brilliant bit of skill by Kyogo. But again, sometimes I'm left wondering, should he have scored more? There's a few occasions today that I'm thinking the word clinical would be trending on Celtic Twitter after a game like today or against Real Madrid, where if we were clinical enough, we would have been ahead in the game. And it starts to concern me a wee bit. I'm going to break away for a second. Daniel Mack, only one thing for it, give big Steve Clark the job. The reason I'm bringing this up is because we did on the socials put out an on this day, and we're not always going to go for the obvious ones, but sometimes the quirkier moments in Celtic's history on a dull Thursday in 1986. And during the week there, you'll remember this well, Ewan, because of your age and when it happened. 1986, Stevie Clark was poised to sign for Celtic. He was at St Mirren at the time. Celtic were offering 225, St Mirren wanted 375. So we're haggling over 150 grand. And we know we didn't get the player. And it just shows you the difference in the way we were approaching things back then. And also back then, it was a different game entirely, because we're scratching about domestically for players to try and improve the team. And the other guys who were mentioned who we were trying to buy were Joe McLaughlin at centre half and Pat Nevin.
Saying that, I've very fond memories of '86. That game at Love Street.
Yes.
I wasn't there, but it was a fantastic day, that one.
What age would you have been there?
I was 14 at that time.
14 in 1986. Love Street 86 in the rain. A vintage performance. And one of the players that played for Celtic may well be the guest who is going to join us at Gracie's in January. It is sold out. We had mentioned it a few times on the Acsom bulletin, on the Acsom shows. And then when we announced it on social media, it sold out within 6 days. Now, there's a couple of things you can do. You can still click on the link which is under this video, and if you put in your email address, they are sent to us and we can get in touch either if a ticket becomes available or if you want a ticket for the February gig, because it looks as though these Acsom nights are going to be pretty popular and we are going to do them month on month with a different guest every time. And I was saying to you earlier, I've been very secretive about the concept and how the structure of the night works, but it isn't your typical night out audience with. It's a bit different. I think that most people, I've seen a lot of the Celtic players doing the old Q&A an audience with, so there's a lot more interaction, and you know what, it's quite laid back and it's going to be an excellent night. And I almost said the player's name there, but I think you know.
You said it's a player from '86?
A player from the '86 team, yeah.
It's not Mo Johnson, is it?
Wee Mo, can you imagine? Can you imagine? I never announced it, and then I think there would be a few returns.
Riot there, I think.
We did finally see the introduction of Oliver Abildgaard. We didn't have enough time to see him, but one of the subs I want to bring up, I want to speak about, is Haksabanovic. And, you know, he's a guy that there's been a few cameos. I've never failed to be impressed by him, to be honest with you. I know that he's not had much game time. Yeah. He comes on kind of late in the day today as well, this afternoon, and near the end almost crafts a chance to get us that third goal. It's funny
because at the time when he was it was like under a minute left, and I was screaming, just run it down to the corner flag, and then he cuts inside and then ends up having a great chance to score, which Abada somehow missed the rebound, so it could have been 3 goals there. But let's be real. But I mean, today we didn't deserve to win by more than 1 goal. But yeah, but he definitely looks like a player who can turn things around.
Well, I'm looking at that bench, and I know that Jungle Lion before the game had raised his concerns that we didn't have a striker, like an out centre forward, on that bench. Aye. You know, a game changer. But I think and there's 2 players on that bench. Abada, put in a category where on a day like today, and you need to change things up, they're the type of player you want to bring on that can maybe change the pace and the dynamic of the game. Mm-hmm. And I think that Abada as well, there's a whole question around whether or not he should be starting, and it came up earlier in one of the comments. What's your thoughts on this? Now, I know that Maeda is very high on Angie's list in terms of where he rates him, where he regards him as a player. He was a player he wanted to buy even before Kyogo came in. Yeah. And I know also that Liam, who contributes to the show and who's based in Japan, also raves about Maeda. But I think under the circumstances that we've seen recently, Abada hasn't done a great deal wrong, but he seems to be kicking his heels on the bench just now. Is it time to bring Abada back in? I know people will go back to the Real Madrid game, where he started the game. He was a wee bit, I think, maybe overawed by the occasion. Yeah. He got an opportunity in the first half where I think against Motherwell or any other team in the Scottish League, he would have ran, he would have taken it in, and he would have had a much better shot at goal. He seemed to panic a wee bit, but he's barely been seen since. Is it time to bring him back?
I think so. I think you could say the same about Jota in that game against Real Madrid. He didn't really turn up and have a good game. Now Maeda is fantastic at what he does. The yards he covers, his running, it's that's his game. You know, the press and kind of being in people's heels. But it's technically not great. He's not going to set up much, and if he's not playing through the middle, his whole game is about pressing and running about. You know, closing players down. Whereas with Abada, you get goals, you get assists. Today he had a couple of nice balls in when he came on. He had that chance at the very end, which he didn't score. But I just think Abada gives you more. He's got more. He'll get you goals far better than Maeda will. So, yeah. So on that point, I would definitely. I think get him back in the team.
We're going to bring in as many comments as we can in the last 5 minutes of the show. Thanks everybody for getting involved. Ewan has been in the studio now on 5 occasions, 4 of them for games, and we've won all 4, so keep coming back. But he is coming from Dunoon, which is a fair old trek, and he will be heading back to Dunoon tonight, so fair play. You were telling me a great story about Jerry Cinnamon earlier, but we'll come back to that. And the lyrics to his song where he name checks Dunoon, and Ewan knows all about the origins of that, which is a great wee story. Trey Dickerson, CCV can't come back soon enough. I agree with you wholeheartedly. He's a player that, if you think back to the pre-season, we were talking about him and Jota. We even got into the discussions, as you do, during a pre-season where there's no football to talk about. Who would you have if you could choose one of them? And as much as I love Jota and his flair and creativity, it seemed to be that most people were going for Carter Vickers. I think we all realise just how important he is to the team. And by the way, no disrespect to Jota, I think he's also vital to the way we play. And if he doesn't play, you know about it because we don't create as many chances. But yeah, absolutely. Let's hope that Carter Vickers is back for Wednesday night. Doc Boy, all about the 3 points, time to regroup. I totally get that. Yep. And, it's at that point that you look at the fact that Ange will be, seething that his game plan isn't being carried out, that the free-flowing, entertaining football that is his philosophy isn't being carried out. So we can be frustrated, you and sitting here watching it, but he will also be frustrated.
Thankfully, it's 3 points, we won. That's the big plus. But after that, a lot of things that are not right. To go from where we were before the St Mirren game, I mean, we were all buzzing. I mean, it was great, we were playing great football, we were competing in the Champions League. And then bang, St Mirren, and then today, and it's like, wow, what's happened? We said St Mirren's a blip, but I think today showed there's maybe not a blip, but maybe there is something fundamentally wrong with a certain group of players. If a few players are missing from the team, mainly Carter Vickers, we look very uncomfortable. Probably Starfelt too. I think those two guys are, like last season showed that they're a rock at the back. I know Starfelt made mistakes, but yes, poor mistakes, but generally speaking, them two, great understanding, great partnership they've built up. Really good at coming forward, setting the team, getting the team going forward and on a roll. Mm-hmm. You can see Joe Hart feels much more comfortable with them two in front of him. Whereas it's no coincidence, the two games when they're not together,
we're starting to question Joe Hart.
Yeah, and the whole team, but
yeah,
the whole
thing. You think about it, we do play. We all know that's how we play. You see Joe Hart, almost on halfway line a lot of the time. But what will happen is everybody on that park will get used to the types of balls that Carter Vickers and Starfelt have been playing. So they'll be making the space that they're used to knowing that there's that understanding. And they could still be making the same runs and making the same space, but not getting the ball because you've got Welsh and Yents there. So their distribution is going to be completely different, and I think it does show. It's jarred the whole fluidity of the team, and we can say that St Mirren, is it a European hangover, or Motherwell, is it an international hangover because a lot of our players have travelled some distance, and you've got to take that into account as well. But one thing I'm going to take away that's positive is in the past we've had managers who, after a really poor performance or a bad result, haven't a clue what to do. And their post-match interview shows that they haven't a clue how to sort it. And I think we've got the confidence in Ange that he's watching, like us, frustratingly. He's watching the game and thinking, he knows how to sort it out. He knows the players who are not performing.
He'll know how to sort it out.
Yeah, I've got confidence in Ange. Stevie Boy reckons Hatate was the man of the match, and we've also got Loopy 33. Hatate was the best as well. Listen. Maybe it was tongue-in-cheek. I thought McGregor played pretty well, but I'm giving him the man of the match for deciding to do what he did and taking that red card for the team. Martin Kerr, Celtic need a good holding hard midfielder. Is it Abildgaard? Is he the man? Perhaps. I've not seen enough of him.
We'll have to see him.
I think that's maybe why he's come in. And Mick doesn't think that Abada starting would have changed much in the game. It's almost as if we're keeping him as almost like an impact sub. But you've got to look at, since Abada came in, his performances have been excellent. Over the piece for a boy of his age, and eventually we'll stop saying for a boy of his age. I don't know what age that will be, 24, 25 maybe. But he's been excellent, and I just think that when he's the player that's trying to vie for his position isn't so good, you start looking at Abada in a different light as well. But again, if you're looking for a goal, he's someone who can make or score you a goal, and he's shown that over a long period of time. What I would say also is that even after the sending off, 88 minutes, Callum McGregor goes off, and you know, because Ange goes up to him and gives him a wee pat in the back, he knows that the captain's taken one for the team.
Yeah.
Even after that, in the 93rd minute, our defence is all over the place, and at that time you are praying that somebody does a John Smith's and just puts their toe through it.
Screaming, we were screaming at the
and they're tip-tapping it on it. Eventually we win a free kick. It was proper hearts and mouth stuff. Yeah. So let's hope, and I think we can say this with some confidence, that Ange is as frustrated as us at this moment in time. No knee-jerk, quite a few poor performances, a poor team performance, but we come away with the 3 points. We're top of the league again. And we go into Wednesday. We'll be back on Monday for the bulletin. If you enjoy what you do, you want to support the channel, you get involved in the live events. As I say, the audience will be a big part of it. All I'm saying is you might end up sharing a stage with a Celtic legend, almost said his name there, in January. If you missed out this time, go into the link and give us your email address and we'll let you know about the next one. Or indeed, if other tickets become available, I can say with some confidence that when we announce on Monday who the guest is, you won't be sending your tickets back. He's a very funny guy and very knowledgeable, and I'm looking forward to being on a stage with him at the same time as well. We've got a charity single coming out, and by the way, Ewan, I've not let you hear it yet. I'll let you hear it before you go. Okay. Recorded by the Wakes, written by JJ Gilmer from the Silencers and Gary John Kane, who is the bass player and has been the bass player for 20 years with the Proclaimers. The song is outstanding. We've got a mix of it. It's not quite finished yet, and we're going to get a few other voices on it. And I think you'll love it. And we're going to ask you to download it. And that's going to be the charity weekender this year. And we're going to have 24 hours of Acsom contributors. And so looking forward to that. It's a change of direction this year, but I'm sure you will enjoy it. We really enjoy the comments, even though we disagree. I think everybody knows that wasn't vintage Celtic today, but we look forward to Wednesday, and hopefully we can see a more vintage performance on Wednesday night. I'll just ask you before you go, Ewan, would you be happy with a draw on Wednesday?
Yeah. I mean, I think especially after the last two games, we're obviously not flowing. A draw would be very nice, to be honest, because at the moment you were thinking they could score 2-3 against us, the way we're defending. So a draw would be nice. Still hoping for the win, but yeah, a draw would be nice, because I mean we're away in Germany, aren't we? First game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, get a point and then bring them back to Celtic Park and then turn them over there. But still, chance for a win. Sometimes when you're not playing great, your expectancies go down. Of a team, you can sometimes do something special.
You get that performance that we've been missing, absolutely. And it could well be Frankie Boy, Johnny Ryan. And if it's not Frankie Boy in January, then I certainly will be asking Frank McAvenny to join us at some point in 2023 at Gracie's, because he is always good for a bit of crack as well. Always a pleasure. It's a Saturday afternoon. Go away and enjoy the rest of your weekend. All that's left for me to say, 100% record. Ewan Martin, thank you again for joining me on a Celtic State of Mind.
Always a pleasure.